and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome to Farage. I'm Mark Steyn. It's beginning to look a lot like guest presenters all the livelong day. Yes, Nigel's getting an early start on the plum duff and mince pies, but he will return by Christmas bank holiday Thursday, the first Sunday after Hogmanay, the first Monday after Hog Tuesday, or whatever it is. Hard to believe it. In a country governed by Boris Johnson, but Britain is all out of gas, and there's a big price to pay for that. Plus, Ghislaine Maxwell, British socialite turned American fall gal, her fate is in the hands of a New York jury, and there's a kind of hush, because I'll be talking pints with the irrepressible Peter Noon of Herman's Hermits, and I'm agog with anticipation. And of course, the indispensable part of the show, your comments and questions. Shoot me your thoughts on our stories at gbviews at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet me at gbnews. All that coming up after the news with Polly.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. These are the latest GB News headlines. The Prime Minister has today confirmed Christmas can go ahead as planned, in England at least. Boris Johnson's ruled out tougher restrictions before the 25th of December. The Prime Minister saying there's still uncertainty about hospital admission rates and the severity of the Omicron variant of coronavirus just yet. He's adding the government will continue to monitor the situation very closely, and they may bring in new measures after Christmas.
Naturally, we can't rule out any further measures after Christmas, and we're going to keep a constant eye on the data. But in view of the continuing uncertainty about several things, severity of Omicron, uncertainty about the hospitalisation rate or the impact of the vaccine rollout and the boosters, we don't think today that there is enough evidence to justify any tougher measures before Christmas.
Well, that's England. What about Scotland? The First Minister there, Nicola Sturgeon, has announced that from Boxing Day, all outdoor events will be limited to just 500 people. That's going to be for a period of 3 weeks to help slow down the spread of the Omicron variant in Scotland. Nicola Sturgeon also confirming that means the cancellation of Edinburgh's world-famous Hogmanay street party, and football matches will also become relatively spectator-free. She stressed that advice for Christmas Day from the government still stands, but that family gatherings should be kept as small and as safe as possible.
Time when these services are already under severe pressure and also dealing with high staff absences, limiting large-scale events will help them focus on delivering essential services to the public. So I would ask the public, despite the disappointment I know this decision will generate, to please understand the reasons for it.
Nicola Sturgeon. Well, £1 billion is being made available by the Treasury to support businesses most impacted by the Omicron variant. That's right across the UK. And it's going to include £6,000 grants for hospitality and leisure firms in England. The government's also going to cover statutory sick pay for those who test positive or those who have to self-isolate. But some travel bosses claim they've been left in the cold. Labour have broadly welcomed the measures but say they should have been introduced earlier. Away from COVID, the man accused of fatally stabbing the MP Sir David Amess and charged with terrorism offences has pleaded not guilty. The Conservative MP was killed during a constituency surgery in Essex in October. 25-year-old Ali Harbi Ali is charged with his murder and preparing acts of terrorism between May 2019 and September of this year. A full trial is due to be held in March. The Metropolitan Police have released CCTV images of missing student Harvey Parker. The 20-year-old was last seen outside the Heaven nightclub in London in the early hours of Friday. Officers are appealing to anyone who may have seen Harvey on this night to come forward. That's your news update. Now let's get back to Mark Steyn.
You know who's not dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card he writes? Boris Johnson. Right now he's dreaming of a sun-drenched Christmas in which you can fry an egg on pavements from Bognor to Belfast. Because it may well be that what finally does for the flailing Prime Minister is not wine and cheese but wind and gas. Unlike wine and cheese at number 10, wind and gas are in short supply throughout the land. The media are reporting that the energy price cap will be doubled to £2,000 per annum in April. Since August, over a third of domestic gas suppliers in the UK have collapsed. Wholesale gas prices doubled in the first half of the year, then shot up another 70% in August. Currently, it's running at about 500% higher than a year ago. Europe bet that Vladimir Putin needed their 500 million customers more than they needed his gas. Mr. Putin, as is his wont, saw the situation differently and has been playing on again, off again with the gas pedal. Last Christmas he gave you his gas, but the very next day he took it away. So if you're in the European Commission building in Brussels and you're about to issue a strong statement about Russian troops massing on the Ukrainian border, don't be surprised if the lights go out 10 minutes later. As for wind energy, Boris Johnson, you'll recall, proclaimed that the United Kingdom would be the Saudi Arabia of wind. No sooner were the words out of his mouth than they dropped to the floor as an eerie stillness descended on these islands. Since then, no wind has blown. Wind speeds are at their lowest for some 6 decades. The good Lord has chosen to afflict us with a total lack of anything more than a light breeze, the occasional semi-zephyr. Well, it's either the good Lord or Chairman Xi in Beijing switching off the wind machine and wrecking the supply. But if you're one of the many Britons who likes to spend the weekend with a pair of binoculars watching the local wind turbines fillet rare species of bird, you're all out of luck. By the way, it doesn't have to be openly hostile actors like Putin luring you into the deep freeze. Even some dinky metrosexual globalist like Emmanuel Macron is happy to threaten to cut off the electricity to Jersey. Britain, through a combination of climate change posturing and geostrategic carelessness, seems among Western powers to have made its energy supply uniquely vulnerable. First, there was the coronavirus. That led to the somewhat eccentric decision by Western nations to tank their own economies. Amazingly, the near total cessation of economic activity had all kinds of real-world consequences. In 2020, the UK economy shrank by 10%, the worst contraction since the Great Frost of 1709. By contrast, China, which unleashed COVID on the world, more or less uniquely managed to grow its economy in 2020 and has been sufficiently flush with cash to buy up all the gas it needs at whatever price. There have been a lot of dogs that didn't bark in the age of COVID. It turns out that tens of millions of people are quite content to have the state tell them how long they're permitted to leave their homes for a daily constitutional. There are a lot of niche issues, often around our leaders' hypocrisy. But a cynical electorate seems to take it as read that the PM will be awash in wine and cheese, even as he bans it for you. But heating your home, especially if the government orders you to stay in it for weeks on end, is about as basic as it gets. With me now is the gas consultant and former energy advisor to Her Majesty's government, Clive Moffat. Clive, you know more about this situation than almost anyone. It's a global problem, but the United Kingdom seems to be harder hit than a lot of other countries. So let me know what you make of the global scene and then Britain's particular problem.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening. The global scene has been turbulent for some time and was predictable in terms of its tightness for the gas market. And a large, as I say, as you alluded to, it's not just simply the fact that there isn't any more gas coming out of Russia into Western Europe. It's also because of huge demand in the Far East and the fact that in the last few years, more countries have been decarbonising away from coal and have required gas to supplement their energy supplies, and in particular, the intermittency of wind generation. At the UK level, we are particularly vulnerable. We are 60–70% dependent on heat for gas, heat dependency. In terms of power generation, we can be as high as 60% because of intermittent wind and the demise of coal, because we've actually wound out coal from the energy mix. So we are vulnerable, and we're particularly vulnerable because governments over successive years have refused to accept that gas will remain a critical source of supply and have basically not done anything to underpin gas storage capacity. So we have less than 2% of annual demand in storage compared with an average of 25% across Europe. So we are more vulnerable.
That's a very odd thing. I mean, if you look at I know it's different if you're a small country, but to take Malta, for example, I know they're a small island, but they seem to have, relative to their population and to their needs, more of a storage capacity and more supply on hand. Have we bungled the whole transfer to gas?
Yes, I think we lost the Centricus Rough facility in 2017, and the government saw fit not to do anything to actually replace that. And basically the government's argument was that there was plenty of LNG in the world, and if we needed gas, ships would come. Of course, the question is at what price? And were we prepared to pay the high price? And we're obviously paying that. For LNG supplies into the UK. The point is that LNG and gas interconnectors with Europe don't necessarily mean the gas is going to be there when you actually need it. We had a crisis, as you know, remember the beast from the east, when we were very close within a matter of hours from having gas rationed to industry because there was nothing in the system. So yes, there has been a short-sightedness about that. I would say on the other point about retail gas prices, there's not a lot one can do. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of economic sense to cap retail prices when you have no control over the wholesale price market. So I would personally recommend the cap is abandoned because all that it does is allow bigger players to acquire smaller players far more cost effectively and expand their market share. It doesn't do much for competition, and all it does is postpone the inevitable for consumers. I think one interesting side effect of this gas price inflation is the point you made about the green agenda, is that consumers will become increasingly discontented with what's happening to their energy bills, are going to look very, very carefully now at that green agenda. And in particular, components of that agenda which involve even more increase in gas costs, such as the increase in VAT on gas, such as suggesting to consumers they should dump their existing gas boilers for far more expensive heat pumps. So there are a number of issues which spin off from this. If you were to ask me, would more storage immediately solve the inflationary problem? The answer is no. But what it would do, and it would take 3 or 4 or 5 years to build this extra storage, what it would do in the next medium term, in the transition, when we're going to continue to be dependent on imported gas, is it would act as a buffer for both to mitigate the volatility and underpin and reduce the risk of a threat of supply shortage. So these things are very much on the agenda for government now.
Well, thank you for laying it all out for us there, Clive. What you say about abandoning the energy price cap is interesting, though if there is no ceiling on how high this gas goes, particularly when the Chinese have the money to pay whatever somebody wants to charge for it, the UK will be shivering in the dark if that keeps up. Thank you very much, Clive. Let me know your take. Are Boris Johnson's pipe dreams, his wind dreams of being the Ibn Saud of wind? I think he's close to Ibn Saud in the number of children he's sired, but otherwise doesn't seem very Saudi. But are Boris's dreams of being the Ibn Saud of wind leaving Britons out in the cold? Let me know your thoughts. GBViews at gbnews.uk is the email address, or you can tweet me at GBNews. We have Mark White on hand because 5 members of an organised gang have been sentenced to almost 26 years between them after an attempt to smuggle 69 Albanians, a very precise figure, like 101 Dalmatians, 69 Albanians into the UK inside a converted fishing trawler. It was intercepted by the border force before the gang, all Eastern Europeans, could land the migrants at Great Yarmouth. And the National Crime Agency says the conviction of the gang marks a major blow against people smuggling because they planned to use this trawler to bring in migrants every week. GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White has this report.
Backed by a Coast Guard helicopter, this is the converted fishing trawler Svanik being buffeted by waves as it crossed the North Sea in November last year. But this boat's fishing days are long gone. Instead, packed into her hold are 69 Albanians being smuggled into the UK. The trawler never made it to its intended destination of Great Yarmouth. Intercepted by Border Force and the National Crime Agency, it was brought here to the port of Harwich. Some of the 69 migrants visible on the deck of the Svanik and on the dockside. The day before, she'd set off from Ostend in Belgium. These images, captured by one of the migrants on deck, shows just how rough the sea was during the 14-hour voyage. Authorities say those on board were in real danger. Most were below deck, but had the vessel encountered difficulties, there was only one lifeboat, which hadn't been serviced in years and was only capable of carrying 20 people. When they searched the boat, National Crime Agency officers found this laptop in the wheelhouse. It linked other organised criminal gang members to the people smuggling operation.
Police, can you open the door?
It's clear Lithuanian national Artūras Jucius wasn't expecting this early morning door knock at his South London home.
From the National Crime Agency. Okay. I'm here this morning to arrest you, all right, for the offence of conspiring to facilitate illegal entry into the UK.
A search of his phone found various audio messages as Artūras Jucius set up this operation, promising to smuggle 50 migrants a week into the UK once they got enough money to buy and convert the boat.
We're going to bring you every week 50 people. Just we need to invest now 40,000 if you want, 20 you, 20 me. From first trip we're going to get that money back.
Juris and 4 other Eastern Europeans, all members of this organised crime group, have now been convicted and jailed for an operation the National Crime Agency said would have been highly lucrative for the gang. They charged their illegal passengers £15,000 each for the trip on this 60-year-old vessel. An inspection of the Farage found she'd undergone a crude conversion to allow people to be carried in her hold. But conditions were filthy and cramped, and the fact there were only 20 life jackets on board showed how little regard the people smugglers had for the safety of their human cargo. Many thousands of people have arrived illegally into the UK this year on small boats across the English Channel. But while focus has understandably been on this growing crisis, organised criminal gangs have continued to expand their operations, looking for other routes into the UK. The commandeering of fishing boats like the Farage to land migrants further up the coast and in rougher weather is now becoming increasingly common. Mark White, GB News.
I wish we'd had a heads up about that corpulent Lithuanian in his wife fronts. But Mark White joins me now. That was a very vivid report, Mark. This is something else other than the boats that are coming from France, bearing mostly Middle East and North African migrants. Do we know who the people that these Eastern European criminal gangs are actually smuggling into the UK, such as these Albanians? Who are they, and why do they want to be smuggled in?
Yeah, on this particular occasion, they were, as you say, Albanians. Now, the court said that, as far as they understood, the vast majority of those who were paying $15,000 a head for that trip to Great Yarmouth wanted, obviously, to come to the UK to work illegally in the black economy. There were, and they could afford the £15,000. There were others on board, though, who didn't have the £15,000 to hand. So what happens is they would enter into deals with the people smugglers and would effectively become modern slaves on this side of the North Sea when they got to the UK. So they would enter that modern slavery system that it is so very difficult to get back out of once you are embroiled in that. And we're told that actually among the 69 people who were on board this vessel was a convicted rapist and a convicted murderer. So, you know, these are the kinds of people that clearly the Home Office, the National Crime Agency want to know are coming into our country. But the attempt was to bring them in illegally. And I think what is notable about this particular case is we have been quite understandably focused on the situation in the Channel. I was down, Mark, in Dover last week again, down there on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, as yet more boats came across. But of course, this just shows how the organised criminal networks are expanding all of the time, looking for new ways to circumvent our borders and get into the UK.
Well, it's interesting because certainly Scandinavia has had trouble with the Baltic states, various gangs and so forth trying this. It's interesting that they're bypassing Sweden, Denmark and Norway and heading straight to the UK now. That's an interesting development. Thank you very much for that, Mark, and we know you're going to be staying on top of this story as you have done in all its manifestations. Coming up is Ghislaine Maxwell headed to the Slammer. And have you noticed how brainy the women on quiz shows are getting? Why is that? And I'll be talking pints with the eternally youthful Peter Noon of Herman's Hermits. Don't touch that dial, we'll be right back.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Some brighter skies for some tomorrow before more cloud and rain arrives from the west. However, backtrack to this evening and high pressure still firmly in charge as it has been for the last week or so. And what that means, calm conditions and a cold night. But it is waning towards the near continent, allowing milder air to come from the west and also bands of rain. And we'll see that as we head through into Christmas Day. For the time being, though, it's cold outside. Holes in the cloud will allow temperatures to plummet. A fairly widespread frost anywhere from Scotland, England and some parts of Wales Away from Northern Ireland and the West Country, a keen breeze here, more cloud and temperatures holding up. But certainly it's going to be a frosty start to the day come Wednesday morning across many areas, but with some hazy sunshine, so some brighter skies. Through the morning, though, that cloud will eventually bring some rain to Northern Ireland, quite a fresh wind across Irish Sea coast, as the rain slowly pushes up towards the western parts of Scotland, clipping West Wales as well as the West Country. Drier skies to end the day further east, but temperatures will struggle here, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius. And through the evening, as the rain pushes across Scotland, it will turn to snow above around 300-400 metres and even some sleetiness at lower levels for a time. As some showers move in across England and Wales, and then more wet weather returns to Northern Ireland through the latter part of Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. However, the key feature of the weather as we head through Thursday, yes, there'll be quite windy in places, outbreaks of rain, but the temperatures will be a few degrees higher, certainly feeling milder across England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a lot of rain, though, just grinding to a halt across Scotland, and a keen breeze across the far north as more rain pushes in across Wales and the West Country later, and also that brisk wind. Temperatures here, double figures though, so not so bad, although the air will slowly get colder from the north as we head into Christmas, with a chance of some snow showers in the northeast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Hey, welcome back. Let's get your comments on our top story. about a potentially shivering Britain in the next few months. Alan says the wind may pick up on Boxing Day after millions eat Brussels sprouts with their Christmas dinner. That's cute, Alan, but that would be in breach of the flatulence targets agreed at COP26. Peter says, throughout today, this very day, coal has provided more electricity to the UK national grid. Coal 4 to 6% and wind 2 to 3%. In what sane world do you swap cheap, reliable energy for expensive, unreliable energy? Well, we're not in a sane world. It's more important to Boris Johnson that he doesn't get the cold shoulder from Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau and that potty-mouthed Scandinavian schoolgirl, whatever her name is. It's more important for him to impress them than it is for Britain to have reliable sources of energy. Mike says, so what happened to the 44% of our gas use from our own North Sea fields? That's still there. It's getting the remaining 60% that's difficult. And by the way, I say that is still there. That's of this morning. But who knows? Maybe one of those strangely influential Chinese figures working for Chairman Xi in Beijing has snaffled up all that North Sea gas, and it's all headed to some processing plant behind the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Robert says if we discount the less accessible and lower quality reserves, we could be fully self-sufficient in electricity for 100 to 200 years. That's a good point, but it doesn't matter because long before 100 to 200 years, the United Kingdom will be full up with Albanian robbers and rapists and murderers and other ne'er-do-wells. And they're hardier folk than we are, so they're used to shivering in the dark. They won't mind. It'll be just like being back in Albania. If there's 60, you do the math, if there's 69 coming in every day. John says, exploit the enormous gas field under Cumbria. Fracking. Build small nuclear reactors, such as those being developed by Rolls-Royce. Dump green energy production. Preach it, brother, but you've got no chance of getting into number 10 Downing Street with that kind of talk. Yesterday, in federal court in New York, the jury in Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial began their deliberations. I've said in the past on this show, I've got little time for Ghislaine or anyone in the Maxwell family, but I have even less time for America's dirty, stinking, rotten, corrupt, so-called justice system. My next guest has seen a lot of US, quote, justice up close. He's covered many interesting trials, including that of Harvey Weinstein, and he joins me now from Sligo on the Emerald Isle, which, as Barack Obama reliably informed the COP26 crowd, is of course Scotland. So delighted to see Phelim from the Emerald Isle of Scotland. What do you make of the way the case has gone for Ghislaine Maxwell so far?
Well, it seems to have gone quite well. I mean, the media and the authorities had her convicted in advance, and the evidence just hasn't piled up. But the evidence didn't pile up in the Harvey Weinstein case either, and he was convicted, without a thought. There is in these juries there seems to be a moral panic at the moment. A politicized judicial system. The judges exclude evidence that seems to help. The prosecutors pile in, and the juries just follow suit. I don't know if Ghislaine Maxwell is innocent or guilty, but I'll tell you, this smells of politics. It was started as a political trial, and it seems to be going on as a political trial.
Well, let me ask you about the politics. It's interesting to me that just from reading the papers in the United States, the only people they're talking about are, basically two British subjects, Miss Maxwell and Prince Andrew, and all the big shot Americans who on the Lolita Express flying off back and forth to Pedo Island. these governors, one former president, Bill Clinton, the fellow who was the American representative in the Northern Ireland talks, George Mitchell, former senator, all these big shot Americans, you'd be interested to know, why are they flying around with a guy whose proclivities were well known on the Lolita Express? They're on the Manifest all the time. Why are the only people they're interested in are these two comparatively obscure and minor British subjects?
Yeah, talk about the dog that doesn't bark. I mean, there's an actual picture of Bill Clinton receiving a massage from one of the victims in this case, and nothing, crickets. You know, the American justice is. Don't forget, this case started off to get one of Trump's cabinet picks, bring him down because of the sweetheart deal he did for Epstein. Then it was joined in with the moral panic of Me Too, and now we've got, let's get the smelly foreigner, Ghislaine Maxwell, with the funny name, and here we are in a courthouse in New York.
Well, juries, it seems to me, there's now two kinds of juries in America, because there's this hideous politicized justice they operate. And it's true whether you're looking at the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, the guy who killed two people on the streets of Kenosha. The question for these juries is always whether they're going to follow the agreed narrative. As you would say, in this case, it's the Me Too narrative. We believe all these victims, or whether they actually are going to dig in and buck the narrative. Do you think this jury is going to buck the narrative with respect to Ghislaine?
I've stopped predicting, especially New York juries. I mean, look, I sat in Harvey Weinstein every day. It was a laughable case. Like, and as you say, Harvey Weinstein is no likable person, but there was the evidence just wasn't there, and he ended up getting 23 years. You cannot predict these New York juries, these coastal juries who live in that soup of Me Too, of politics. Look, I would not like to be Ghislaine Maxwell at this moment.
Well, that's true. And as you say, it is unfortunately the case that being a foreigner with a funny name just moves you into the unlikable category. I shouldn't say that, because I've got a jury trial coming up in Washington, and we can't all be the Irish charmer like yourself, Phelan. You have an advantage with some of these American courts, I think, if they ever catch up with you, that is. Yeah, well, look, I mean, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell, Harvey Weinstein, they're not likable people, you know. I mean, even the prosecution in the Weinstein case was even made that, you know, and I remember them asking some of the witnesses, I mean, Mr. Weinstein was much heavier then and was much, more overweight. Yeah. In other words, why would this English rose, or this beautiful rose, kind of like the Jeffrey Maxwell or Jeffrey, the case, you know, why would this rose be seen with this gross man? And he was almost, you know, being railroaded for not looking like, not looking attractive. So that's the kind of soup that we're in, and. No, it's a terrible system. We shouldn't laugh, because he's not going to be coming out. Thank you for that, Phelan, and do keep watching this case for us. You know what it's time for right now? What the Farage? Bolton St. Catherine's Academy. Have you got a kid there? Well, they're doing away with their head boy and head girl titles and replacing them with the gender-neutral heads ambassadors. The headmistress, if indeed she still goes by that title, Rachel Lucas, the headmistress, she says the titles are outdated and the school needs a welcoming atmosphere to be an inclusive community. I get that it can be terribly embarrassing to appoint a head boy and find he transitions into a head girl a fortnight later. But have you ever heard anything more pathetic than heads ambassador? Where is the contrarian spirit of youth? If you are offered at this school, if you are offered, boys and girls, if you are offered any of these worthless titles, heads ambassador, reject it. As the contrarian spirit of youth is dying and we need to bring it back. And there's never been a better opportunity for you guys all to rise up and reject your woke headmistress in this respect. The quiz show Jeopardy! Has been running on American television since 1964. It's a ratings blockbuster. Its new champion, Amy Schneider, has racked up the highest score ever achieved by a woman. So that's great news for women, shattering the glass ceiling and all the rest of it. But Ms. Schneider poo-poos all that and says she owes her victory to white privilege and to male privilege, because even though she now identifies as a woman, she's perceived as male. So the highest female score ever on this 50-year quiz show, 60-year quiz show, has been racked up by a transgender woman. I'm trying to figure out what's the correct position on this. You know, when the trans women win all the sporting competitions, the women's sports now, as they do, we're told that it's because they have male levels of testosterone. So I'm not sure what we're meant. What do we say? Is this because the trans women have male-sized brains, so they can just crush all the cis women? I'm just trying to identify what the right position on this is supposed to be. Anyway, the highest scoring female result on Jeopardy after 60 years. The quiz show is now by from a trans woman who says she owes it all to her enormous male-sized brain. I'm just putting that out there. Don't know whether I should say it. It's probably not legal to say it these days, but with the remnants of my career, I figure I might toss them all away before Christmas. Last year, a lady from Wales picked up an old globe at an antique fair. It's just sold at auction for nearly 800 times what she paid for it. She bought it for 199 quid. She just sold it for £116,000. What's this globe got that your globe hasn't? Well, it's got a total lack of Australia. Look at this thing. The globe was built around 1550, 1560, before Captain Cook, before the discovery of Australia. But in fact, it's the perfect globe for 2021. As you'll know, if you've tried to see your cousins, no one can get in or out of Australia these days. So there's no actual need for Australia on a map of the world anymore. In place of Victoria and the Northern Territory, just put "here be COVID dragons." What country would you like off your globe? No Farage to barrage tonight, but you can stump the Steyn with candidate nations to expunge from the map. Before that, I'm going to be talking pints, though, with Peter Noon of Herman's Hermits. Don't miss it. That's straight ahead.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back to Farage. Peter Noon is the Harmon of Herman's Hermits and has had a cavalcade of hits. I'm Henry the Eighth I Am. I'm into something good. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight. Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. Sunshine Girl, on and on and on. And it's always great to see Peter. Cheers to you. We're doing this virtually. And the last time I saw you, you had a pint of... Oh, you've got a bottle of milk. A bottle of milk. The bottle stands forlorn. Yeah.
They told me that it's a pint.
Is that a... Yeah, it's a kind of plastic bottle. It's not like the bottle you sang about. Yeah. Should be a pint, proper pinter. Is that what they used to say, I think? A pinter of milk? Are you asking me? Let me ask you about that song. Yeah, I'm asking you about that song, because I love that song. Okay. No milk today, my lover's gone away.
Me too.
The bottle stands forlorn, a symbol of the dawn. What did you think? Because you were like 12 when you recorded that. What did you make of having to sing a love song centred around milk delivery?
You know, it made sense to me, because I was from Manchester, and my milkman when I was a kid was Freddie from Freddie and the Dreamers. And it was a pure Mancunian song, No Milk Today.
Yeah. So you had your milk delivered by a pop star. Freddie Garrity of Freddie and the Dreamers.
He was just Freddie Garrity then. Yeah? He was still just Freddie. My mum called him Freddie. And then he became Freddie and the Dreamers.
And you only found out... Yeah, that's an impressive level of milkman. I saw a photo of you. I think it must have been after the record had sold a gazillion copies in the Netherlands, and you're standing there at some Dutch dairy, which was somebody's idea of a photo op.
You know, it was a massive hit in Holland, probably because it was something they could say. No milk today. and they brought me Eintracht. They flew me over there, the record company, and I went in a freezing cold dairy. And I had to take bottles of milk off a conveyor belt. It was like I Love Lucy.
Right. It was it's fun to do, because you were at that age. Everything you did at that age was not normal for an English schoolboy, as it were. So I guess you just took it all in your stride, did you?
Well, you know, I was always pretty persistent. I wanted to make things happen, so I worked harder than everyone else, sort of like you do now. And, you know, working harder than everyone else and keeping busy all over the place. And when it came to promotion, I was like the number one, yeah, I'm ready. What time's the plane?
Yeah, which is the best attitude.
All the papers in England at the time would say, Herman, the luckiest millionaire. And I had £300 in the bank.
That's often the way in the music business. Yeah, it's strictly on paper, that. Let me just play one of my favourite songs of yours. A great hit, and this is You and Me a couple of years back before the COVID. There's a kind of hush. Okay,
let's give it. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight, all over the world. world, you can hear the sounds of lovers in love. You know what I mean, just the two of us and nobody else inside. There's nobody else, and I'm feeling good, holding you tight. So listen very carefully.
Now, Peter, have you seen the film Love Actually, which is a big Christmas movie that they show in the UK? And there's a pop star in that, played by Bill Nye, who turns his big pop hit from the 60s in, he just puts the word Christmas in it, and I've often thought that if you turn There's a Kind of Hush All Over the World Tonight, if you made it There's a Christmas Hush All Over the World Tonight, it'd basically be like a hip Silent Night. Have you ever thought of that?
It's a very good idea, but you know, all the ideas, all your good ideas, 2 days before Christmas. Don't I have to think about it for next year? I have to remember your idea all year now.
Yeah, no, you can record it, you know. Yeah, it would work very well, I think. You can record it the day after Boxing Day.
You know what? I'm going to do it, and then we'll see if it's a good idea. If it's not a good idea, it's your idea. If it's a massive hit, it's my idea.
I'm going to hold you to that. I want to ask you about, because I riffle through my record collection, and you know, everybody's got a Christmas album. There's there's the Andy Williams Christmas album. There's the Mariah Carey Christmas album. There's the Boris Johnson Christmas album. I've got all these Christmas albums. But you've never made a Christmas album, and I've heard you sing Christmas songs, but you've never put them together for a big CD or anything.
We only recorded, Herman's Hermits only recorded one Christmas song, and it was written by Graham Gouldman, who wrote No Milk Today and Bus Stop, and it is absolutely brilliant. It's called East West. And apparently his dad was the lyricist. And it's like east, west, over the ocean, perpetual motion, traveling around, mum, dad all round the fire in festive attire, keeping the day. Beautiful song.
That's pretty nice. But I've heard you sing Oh Holy Night, and that isn't like your All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth, or Rocking Around the Oh Holy Night, it's a serious song. Chaps like Pavarotti have sung it, but you've also done it and given it some welly.
Yeah, we do a Christmas show every year, and we do songs that requested. That one seems to be requested. That one and the child, When a Child is Born. We do some of those Pavarotti-esque things, you know. I give it more of a Danny Kaye twist than the Bing Crosby.
Really?
More
so you don't do that? That's very good. I'm not.
More of that, you know.
That's your Danny Kaye, is it?
Yeah, really.
That's the. I thought Danny Kaye was in the room. That's such a good Danny Kaye impression. That's amazing. But you're not tempted.
Well. I do Boris as well.
I really want something possible about it.
Those are the two impressions I do, Danny Kaye and Boris.
Yeah, that has the makings of an act, perhaps one of limited appeal. You probably want to think about working on it before you book Caesar's Palace, but it's good. It's a start. Danny Kaye and Boris Johnson. So tell me something then. When you have the best attitude of almost any pop star I know, because when you go to a Peter Noon Herman's Hermit show, the great thing about your show is you could take all the songs out, and what's left is still a fantastic comedy act. You do a thing where you take your LP cover from 1967 and observe that you're wearing the same suit and walk across the stage with the LP as your head. You're just there. You've got a totally relaxed attitude to fame and success.
Well, you know, I never really... People from my generation grew up in a massive shadow of talent, like Danny Kaye and Dick Van Dyke and the Beatles and Elvis Presley. So you never think you've really made it, so you keep having to... I want to become the next Des O'Connor.
Right.
You know,
that's a great way of...
Wonderful...
Yeah.
Some sort of all-round entertainer kind of person.
Well, you actually do a pretty good job on... Oh, I'd love to see that. Now, not for the Danny Kaye side of your dancing, but the Boris dancing, the dancing Boris Johnson. You've got a... Take my word for it, folks. This is the best dancing Boris Johnson impersonator you're ever going to see. If he's coming to the London Palladium or whatever, don't miss it. Peter Noon as the dancing Boris Johnson. Merry Christmas to you, Peter, and thank you for joining us on Farage. Have a terrific Christmas.
Same to you, Mark. It's great talking to you. Big fan.
Always good seeing you. Time to barrage the Farage. You know how this works. I haven't seen these questions. This first one comes in via Twitter about the questions and says, "You never use the ones I send in." Okay? Well, we're not going to use that one. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't appeal to me, so we're not going to use that one. Gary says via Twitter, "Do you think we will have another lockdown?" Oh, certainly, Gary. It's a long Christmas. There's Boxing Day on a Sunday, so that means it's Christmas Bank Holiday Monday and Christmas Bank Holiday Tuesday, and I would bet before Wednesday, there will be a new kind of lockdown. And Ralph via Twitter asks, "Given migrants crossing the Channel has passed the 30,000 mark this year, do you have any idea what the cost to the UK taxpayer is thus far?" It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the cost is, Ralph, because they're not going to do anything about it. And money has no meaning in the post-COVID world. So who cares about cost? That is going to do it for tonight's show. I will be back tomorrow. Nigel back eventually. And Alistair Stewart, the one and only, is standing by right after the weather. See you tomorrow.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Some brighter skies for some tomorrow before more cloud and rain arrives from the west. However, backtrack to this evening and high pressure still firmly in charge, as it has been for the last week or so. And what that means, calm conditions and a cold night. But it is waning towards the near continent, allowing milder air to come from the west and also bands of rain. And we'll see that as we head through into Christmas Day. For the time being, though, it's cold outside. Holes in the cloud will allow temperatures to plummet. A fairly widespread frost anywhere from Scotland, England and some parts of Wales. Away from Northern Ireland and the West Country, a keen breeze here, more clouds and temperatures holding up. But certainly it's going to be a frosty start to the day come Wednesday morning across many areas, but with some hazy sunshine, so some brighter skies. Through the morning, though, that cloud will eventually bring some rain to Northern Ireland, quite a fresh wind across Irish Sea coast, as the rain slowly pushes up towards the western parts of Scotland, clipping West Wales as well as the West Country. Drier skies to end the day further east, but temperatures will struggle here, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius. And through the evening, as the rain pushes across Scotland, It will turn to snow above around 300-400 metres and even some sleetiness at lower levels for a time. As some showers move in across England and Wales, and then more wet weather returns to Northern Ireland through the latter part of Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. However, the key feature of the weather as we head through Thursday, yes, there'll be quite windy in places, outbreaks of rain, but the temperatures will be a few degrees higher, certainly feeling milder across England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a lot of rain, though, just grinding to a halt across Scotland, and a keen breeze across the far north as more rain pushes in across Wales and the West Country later, and also that brisk wind. Temperatures here, double figures though, so not so bad, although the air will slowly get colder from the north as we head into Christmas, with a chance of some snow showers in the northeast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m.